On that note, hello everybody. Happy Friday. We are a group that is family led and family driven, referring to ourselves as for all the people. And we meet every other Friday at 3 p.m. until the legislative session for 2025 really kicks into high gear at the end of this year into um, the actual session, which is March of next year. We're going to be doing a bi-monthly educational series so that we can be as equipped as possible when we go meet with our legislators on the systemic issues at hand. So, my name's Stephanie Norden, and Tom Nurse down over there is going to help tee this off a little bit better. I'm getting tongue tied, Tom. But one of the things I wanted to preface before we get into our subject matter today is we have our family cafe in Orlando, which is the largest disability conference in the nation. It's unbelievable for families, and our group is going to be presenting, and we will also have an exhibition table so that we can attract more families to speak the same message with one voice and move this to another level. So we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the exhibition hall. And if you guys are planning on going to Family Cafe, we could really use volunteers to be at our table, greet families, let them know who we are, and get them connected into our group. I found somebody else did this and copied and pasted in the chat link. There is a sign up sheet. So if you're going to Family Cafe, we could really use all hands on deck. If you do it a little bit at a time, then we can all have a fabulous weekend and really, really reach more families. So that is my free to Tom. Just that's June 14th through the 16th is when Family Cafe is. If you don't know about Family Cafe and you want to go, I'll put my email in the chat. We are working with as many organizations as possible to make it so that families can attend. So send me an email if you would like to go. You don't know about it, you need the information. Family Cafe is incredible. So Tom,
Hey, Steph,
yeah.
Steph, I'm so sorry. Do you want to do the disclaimer thing?
Yeah, welcome to our meeting. By the way, we do record these meetings so that families that aren't able to attend can go back on our YouTube channel and view it at a later time, listen in their car. Um, that's it, right? Do you have the rest of it, the official one?
I don't, but that's the gist of it. So basically, if you don't want to be recorded, then you've been warned.
Yeah. But we want our families to know that they have access to the information when they need it. Fridays at 3 p.m. is not going to work for everyone. And it is April 19th. So a lot of our families are in the busy hustle bustle of spring, and this way they can catch up later at a more convenient time. Hang on, before I lose it, we do meet every other Friday. Our next meeting is going to be May 3rd. And we already have a speaker lined up for that. Yvette Benarock is a community advocate, and she has a lot of experience helping families get their message across systems broader and louder. So I would love for families to come tune into Yvette Benarock, and that's that.
And when it comes to the Family Cafe, one of the things along with the exhibit table, we will be having a presentation Saturday at 11 a.m. And our goal is to help folks start to fill out the forms, create the pages. We want to make it 500 families at least by the time we get to session, have 500 single pagers. Stephanie's got an expansion opportunity that she's working on to create some video 1-minuters as well. to do a more multimedia version of a day in the life type
That,
thing?
that's what Yvette's going to come on. This is something that she would like to contribute to our group, and so but yes, so we'll have a kind of a level up from our one pages. Still keep it. We still need something to bring into our legislators, so that families have a tool. But we would like to build that out to a day in the life of, and she's got video editors that'll condense it to a minute to make it more.
So with all of our friends, families, and partners that are on today and can hear about it, what we really want to do is recruit and encourage people to stop by the table at the exhibit, see the 11 o'clock if they want to on Saturday, and let's all get part of the story because, again, what we're going to continue to do is educate and inform and request constituent services from our local legislators. You know, after the elections, there's going to be some new people that are need to be educated, and we're going to really need to remind ourselves of the nonpartisan focus on individuals and families and programs of services, not a political side, but an outcome. So with that in mind, it's really a pleasure for me to bring today not only a dear friend, but someone that is a mentor to me and someone that has been a true force of nature in Florida, Drew Andrews from the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. And it serves as a statewide coordinating center to establish and support inclusive post-secondary educational programs in collaboration with universities, state and technical colleges. The overall goal is to increase independent living and competitive integrated employment for individuals with intellectual disabilities. So, Drew, that's the official statement from the first paragraph of the executive summary of the program. But are you at a place where we can see you and you can turn your camera on, or are you still rolling?
No, I have found a place to stop here, but I'm using the app and I turned it off because I was driving at the beginning and I'm not sure how to turn the camera back on.
That's
And
okay.
I talk with both of my hands, whether you see me or not. I've got both of my hands going wide open whenever I'm talking and presenting. But I appreciate you inviting me today, and I appreciate this opportunity to share with this group.
And Drew, I appreciate all the advance notice that you had for this. I called Drew yesterday afternoon and asked that he would join, and he goes, "Well, can I do a PowerPoint thing and all that kind of stuff? But I won't be able to do that tomorrow because I'll be driving." I said, "No, we'll have you back to do that if we could get you tomorrow." Because Drew, let's talk a little bit about the Florida Center for Unique Abilities and the Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program Act. And what does that mean?
It means that, let's go back a little before that. And in 2008, the Higher Education Opportunity Act was passed, federal legislation that created comprehensive transition and post-secondary programs. And what that did was it gave, for the first time, students with intellectual disabilities the opportunity to have access to higher education. And so they were also given access to financial aid. And a framework was sort of designed that where institutions of higher education could develop programs that might not be degree programs, but some could be degree or non-degree programs. And students would take courses that might be for credit, or they might audit those courses. But truly the goal of comprehensive transition and post-secondary programs is for students, just like other students do at college also, to earn a meaningful credential that will lead to employment. And so in 2016, Florida did a wonderful thing. They passed the Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Program Act. And that act did four things. It established the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities at UCF as a statewide coordinating center. It also established a framework for Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs, which aligned with the federal legislation. And then it had two parts that both involved funding. One of those is that it offered students a scholarship. Students that were enrolled in an approved program were then eligible to receive a scholarship of $7,000 annually to participate in that program. And since 2016, we've realized that at some private not-for-profit universities and some of the larger universities that have where students are living in dorms, that they need more than that. And so they have upped that amount to where students can receive up to $15,000 annually in a student scholarship. So that's the third thing that the act did. And the fourth thing was that it provided funding for initial development of programs. So if someone follows that structure, that was the second part, and develops a Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition program, they are then eligible for their students to receive the scholarships, and they are also eligible to apply for a grant to fund implementation of that program. Those grants are typically 3 years, and then they can reapply for another grant. So it's not only initial funding, but it's also continuing funding for programs at, as you said, Tom, universities, state colleges, technical colleges, and our private not-for-profit colleges and universities that are accredited in the state.
So currently, according to your annual report, there are 25 approved programs located in 31 campuses across Florida, including 7 universities, 7 colleges, 11 technical colleges, and there's more. Right?
Well, Tom, we haven't that annual report was published October 1, and we have not been sitting still. And I can tell you that as of yesterday, we now have 30 approved programs. So that's 5 programs that we have approved since October. So that you can only imagine how much work that is. But if colleges and universities are ready to go, we're right there supporting them all the way so that they can have approved programs. So I know that we have 30 programs, and I think that's on 36 different campuses, because some programs are on more than one campus. For instance, Lee County Schools has a program that's at both Fort Myers Technical College and Cape Coral Technical College.
So Drew, let me simplify something real
In
quick.
Broward,
So it's
okay.
what I heard you saying, make sure people understand, is there are monies for scholarships up to $15,000 for students, but there's also money
Yes.
for the universities and fellow programs for professional development, technical assistance to help them develop these programs. Is that what that's for?
Well, it's for that, but it's for more than that, Tom. Most of our grants are typically $300,000 to $500,000 a year, and a lot of those grant funds are used for personnel, because you're bringing in someone to coordinate the program, you're bringing on additional academic support, you may be paying peer mentors, may be paid out of the grant. Um, you may be hiring a job coach, because employment is the goal. So yes, that money can be used as you described for the development, but it's also for you to bring on the staff needed, because we know that students with intellectual disabilities are going to need additional support. And one thing that I think you mentioned, but I want to say it again, these are inclusive programs. So these are not separate programs on a campus. The legislation says that they must be inclusive programs where students are included.
So let's back up a little bit further, Drew, because you and I met
Okay.
through this transition center at the University of Florida, where we were all working hard at school district development of the implementation of transition IEPs. And I've heard you talk about a few categories
Yes.
that would be in those transitions, like independent living, community participation, and post-secondary education. So could you talk a little bit about the role that while students are still being served with an IEP, why would working on those goals in a transition IEP for years be so important, and what impact do you see on students when they show up when that has actually happened?
Tom, that is so important what you just shared. Legislation was passed a couple of years ago, and I can't remember the number, but it requires that school districts share with students with intellectual disabilities information about Florida post-secondary comprehensive transition programs to help students and parents be aware that there are post-secondary opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities. That is important because in a transition IEP, and I would say one of the components, you're looking at post school. You're looking at what is that transition going to be whenever a student exits the K-12, and then what's next? Well, that's what in the quick elevator speech that I share with people, I tell them we are what's next. Florida Post-Secondary Comprehensive Transition Programs for students that are interested in programs that and they want to go on to college. But for our programs, they must have exited the K-12 system. Now, that may be at 18, or that may be at 22 after they've been in an extended transition program. But they exit that program, and so there needs to be planning that takes place prior to going to college because college is different than high school. Um, at a college, a student must have some level of independence, and they must have a desire to go to college. Just like any of us that went to college, there was that desire to want to go to college to be able to build our knowledge and receive some type of credential that would allow us to get the job that we want. And so at, when students are going through the transition process, we would hope that what's going on is that they're doing transition assessment and they're identifying what they want to do. And let's say there's a student that's interested in cars, and so they're interested in going to a technical college and getting a credential in automotive repair. Well, that student needs to be and the K-12 teachers, the secondary K-12 teachers, um, all of that planning needs to take place before that student exits the K-12 system. So that should be included in their goals, just like you're looking at, all of the other, what are the post-secondary goals? Now, when we're talking with school districts, how we do that, we talk to them about indicator 1, 2, 13, and 14 are the primary indicators where working with us is beneficial because 1 and 2 are graduation and dropout rate. And if students know that there's something more, it's going to encourage them, I believe, to stay and to graduate, not to drop out. But then 13 and 14 are really about an IEP that meets the requirements of having a compliant IEP that includes post-school outcomes and post-school and those goals for post-school. And then the other component of indicator 14 is that students are found in post-secondary education after they exit the K-12 system that next year to look at how many students in this district went on to post-secondary education. So we want school districts to encourage their state colleges, technical colleges, universities to develop a program so that all students have an option. And that's certainly something that we're doing too. And so, for instance, in Pinellas County, there is a program at Pinellas Technical College. They haven't yet accepted students, but they will be. They are an approved program, and they're getting everything in place to accept students. There's a program at St. Petersburg State College, and there is a program at USF St. Pete. The legislation allows there to be, you can have multiple programs in one area. We all know how many people live in Pinellas County, meaning that it's a huge number and there are lots of students there. So students in Pinellas County have an option. What is the option that best aligns with your future post-school goals? So students attend one of those programs based on that. And that our goal is for there to be programs throughout the state where students have options. But students need to be talking about that and thinking about that, just like other students think about going to, where are you going to apply? Let me visit this program. Let me look at what this program, what the credentials are that are offered. Does this program and what they offer, does it align with the goals that I have once I leave school? And I tell folks, in K-12, students may have, hopefully, are having work experience. We're not about just providing some work experience. We're about students being prepared to maybe, and we know that Publix is an example that lots of folks use over that, and Publix is a wonderful store that allows students to have opportunity work. They have work experience, but our programs are looking at someone having a baking and pastry certificate that and taking that credential with them, and they get a job in the bakery at Publix. So that's kind of, I use that example because that's an example of what might be happening in K-12 and what we're working toward.
So, Drew, let me interject here then. That is such a inspirational thing. And part of the idea is that early on, we need to get people to be looking downrange. Where are we going? And what are the things that we need to do to
Absolutely.
be able to get that eligibility? And so part of the driving of this call is this group last year focused significant energies on the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And there were two areas of particular focus that we wanted to, that kind of in part brought us to you. And one of them was the elimination of a couple of categories of the wait list this year. And one of them was category 5. And let me quickly review what that is. It includes clients who are expected to graduate within the next 12 months from a secondary school and need support to obtain a meaningful day activity, maintain competitive employment, or pursue an accredited program in post-secondary education to which they have been accepted. It also notes the documentation
Right.
required for the change school documentation of the individual's graduation date and documentation. There's no other source other than the waiver funding to provide the individual support to obtain a job, pursue meaningful day activities, or pursue post-secondary education. I read all that to say when the agency provided to the legislature how many students fall in that category for across the state of Florida that are waiting at the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Drew, give me a guess. How many do you think that would be?
Well, you've told me, Tom, so I'm not going to act like I'm guessing, but you and I talked, that number is very low. It's just 20 something, isn't it?
That's correct. So part of what we're doing is we're looking at, as a group, trying to stimulate the conversation, make the numbers be accurate. And so one of the things that says here is when documentation, there's no other resource other than waiver funding. So my question, Drew, is don't some of the students get the $15,000 scholarships, but may need additional supports from the med waiver or from vocation rehabilitation or blind services or some other program as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is one funding source, this scholarship, we also work to make sure that, we work to include vocational rehabilitation counselors where VR might be able to provide services. We encourage our programs to work with any service that is out there that can provide services to students, to young adults, actually, with intellectual disabilities.
So, for instance, Drew, with that in mind, one of the big concerns I would think you would have with independent living would also be things like access to health care. And so, the discussions in the transition IEPs about I want to be a baker, I want to get the certificate, I want to go to the Lee County Technical School, and I want to live on campus, and the $15,000 won't cover all my expenses. Wouldn't that be a perfect example of the kind of conversation in a transition IEP when we're looking at coordinating resources and identifying how we're going to do it would be done?
Well, you're looking at each student's individual needs, and absolutely, there would be students that would meet that description that you just gave. Yes, absolutely.
So, Drew, one of the things we talked out as we wrap up for today, and we're going to have you back for our more expensive with visuals and everything conversation about this because this is such an exciting systems development to be able to open up the doors of hope and opportunity for students that historically were not seen as having those opportunities. Um, is there any last thoughts that you'd like to share for today related to the encouragement of starting early and often and engaging in a transition IEP and why that's important?
Yeah. Well, Tom, one thing that was mentioned earlier in this call was about the Family Cafe, and we are always at the Family Cafe. And this is just one example. We attend lots of conferences and meet everywhere that families gather. We try to be there to share this information. A lot of families come by with a child that's still in a stroller, and they say, "Oh, that's for older kids. I'll find out about that later." One of the things that I tell folks, it is never too early to start planning for transition because you're starting to build a framework and gather information to have success. And we know that for many students with intellectual disabilities, it's going to take additional support for there to be success. I mean, I know you are an example of a parent that has just been so supportive, but many parents, it seems they may not know how important their role is or starting early. But I encourage families to start early. You need to be talking about going to college so that students have that expectation, so that students are building their stamina in education, in learning, that the expectations are high. One of the things that I talk to teachers about is, look, it's your responsibility to make sure that students are ready for post-secondary education. And you need to be doing everything that you can to help that student be as independent as possible, but to have an idea of what's going to be happening on that college campus and how is that going to be different than being in high school. And this is how you need to be getting ready, just like we would talk to any of our children who are growing up to say, you need to. I was talking to my granddaughter. She fell off of her horse and is today at the orthopedic center getting checked because she's got something in her collarbone that's cracked a little bit. They're going to have to do some repair. But I'm sharing this example of when I talked to her. I said, Sugar, I said, I am so sorry this has happened. I said, and there were some reasons maybe that she fell. She was not being as careful as she should have been, and she was bareback. But I said, you're becoming an adult. She's 12 years old. And I said, being an adult means you're going to be making more decisions on your own. There we go, Tom. Self-determination, self-advocacy is so important for everyone. And our And as long as I have the ability, we're going to continue. I mean, we're at 30. I can't wait to get to 60 programs because there are still pockets of the state where there's not a program close enough that students could go. And if they chose to still live at home, to attend the program and be at home that evening. And there are a dozen wonderful universities here in the state. There are 28, the great 28 state colleges. There are over 40 technical colleges. And then there are, I think, right at 40 private not-for-profit colleges and universities. That would cover Florida for students to have that option, to all have that option. And we're going to continue to work towards that. But we need parents to be aware and to be asking in that IEP, what are we doing to get my son or daughter ready for post-secondary education? How is that working? And to talk with that teacher and to look at that and to really focus on those post-secondary goals for students. Those would be my final thoughts.
Well, Drew, I can say nothing but thank you, thank you, thank you. And, I think you've touched a nerve with a lot of folks about, many times we get caught up in slugging day to day, but when we can pick up our head and look down the road and have some hope and some dreams, it really does turn out the harder you work, the luckier you get. And part of it is getting systems to communicate and connect. And I will follow up with you with more information about our project and encourage you to share it far and wide. And we'll get on the calendar and get you back for a more detailed one. And I just want to thank you again and hope you drive safe.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed this time, and I'm more than happy to come back and talk about. As you can tell, I love talking about this, and I'm happy to answer questions. And my email, you can put it in the chat, Tom. It's drew.andrews@ucf.edu. I'm happy for you to share. Email is good because then I have documentation. But folks can call also. But any way that I can answer questions or provide more information, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much, my friend, and we'll talk soon. Have a great day.
Be well.
Bye. Well, there you have it. There's Drew. And that's the kind of things we want to do is bring an increased awareness of what are the projects, programs, services that are going on, try to connect the dots. And when we talk about transition, he was also talking about independent living. He was also talking about community participation. He was also talking about employment. He was also talking about adult education. All those things are those categories within a transition IEP that we should be in Florida no later than 12. We can even talk earlier if we want to, but no later than. So that is something that will be very important in the improving outcomes by getting more people involved earlier, raising expectations, increasing opportunities. I mean, we just learned today about $15,000 scholarships per year. Scholarships, those aren't loans. Those are big deals. And we also heard about how vocation rehabilitation could be part of it and how mid-waiver can be part of it. So these discussions may not be happening enough around the communities. And that's part of what our project will be, because as we look at this year, trying to deal with a $1 billion shortfall of appropriate funding for APD, we also have to be able to provide them the supports of making sure that they're not the only ones providing all the supports and that it's a collaboration. So does anybody have any comments or feedback on what we just saw that they'd like to share before we move forward? Alan, being part of the largest organization serving people with intellectual disabilities in the state of Florida, what did you hear today?
Well, that
I said, being the leader of the largest organization that serves people with intellectual disabilities in the state of Florida, what did you hear today that may be helpful?
Well, the scholarships, I didn't know about them. I actually wrote his name down. I was going to reach out to him later about just a couple things that I've been thinking about. But beyond, you mean beyond this conversation, like what did I learn today?
Well, what I mean is that do you see the alignment about why focusing on transition?
Yeah, I think a big point is the numbers are misleading that APD has, and it kind of validates our initiative to get out there and have people sign up so we can have legitimate numbers and know so the policymakers can know what they're dealing with because it's St. Johns County has the numbers for the state, you know. So I mean, I think that historically we've been focused the arc on older people, but I think we need to shift and get to the younger people because I think the families need to start being educated earlier. And you know, we kind of I think left it up to the schools because there was an understanding that that's where they got their resources, but I don't think that's enough.
I don't think so either. I think when we look at that, for instance, that transition from early steps to pre-K, then there's a lot of questions about healthcare access, additional developmental services, you know, therapies, those behavioral supports, respite, those issues that access to healthcare. So again, that will.
And I think, you know, Representative Tant did some really good things with the legislation the last couple of years, ensuring APD, the families knew about this, but there's no true outreach to support families unless we're going to do it, family to family. I mean, in reality, there's just not that motivation for some reason for government to engage. Margaret?
Margaret, I see your hand. Go ahead,
To
Margaret.
prove, well, I just want to follow up on this, Paula, sorry. To prove that point, if they're saying that there were only 20 individuals who were that could move up the wait list and transition, yet they're planning to do a waiver called Adult Pathways Waiver that would start at age 23. They're fully aware that there are lots of people who need post high school activities and work avenues, and
And it also means
yeah, well, and it's proof that they're not going to be the ones to call the folks on the wait list. They really don't have the staff for that. So we need to educate folks to move.
Margaret, they have said that, you know, that their hope coordinators are calling everyone on the wait list.
Okay, let's say anybody out on the wait list, just wait for that call. Let us know when you get it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
And you were on a pre-call list, not a wait list. It's a pre-call list.
Hey, I just this is Melissa. I have to jump off of here. And I just got back from being away, but I just wanted to say it's nice to see you guys again. I thought what Drew said was excellent. I love that, you know, that focus, like you're going to be an adult and those expectations and those programs opening up. So it's, you know, again, that outreach, like, you know, what you just said, Alan, and it's anyway. So I thought that what he said was great. And I guess, you know, the more of us that are also connecting on the provider level and with Representative Tant and also, you know, Buchanan, he's interested. You know, Perez helped to put a nod in that direction, you know, to help pique his interest, and hopefully he'll, you know, have his reelection, and then we'll continue to have access to people that are in those positions to make those decisions about the funding and the outreach and all the stuff that's necessary. And then, you know, we, like Alan or Tom, one of you guys just said, you know, we got to make that decision to kind of move forward, and pulling people in like Drew that's, we just continue the momentum, continue it.
And Melissa, when we will want to follow with you and have you and Doug do a in-depth kind of a behind the scenes of kind of the legislative process and some of the strategies and the help of what you've done last year and what we're looking forward to this year. Because as we bring the family voice up, we need to be informed. We need to be able to help the legislators know governmental systems that are not functioning as intended or not as supported or as effective as they need to be. And so things like UCF Center for Unique Abilities, knowing about that, knowing that there is millions and millions of dollars going out with programs makes it helpful. We will continue. I mean, again, one of my focus is on how come we have 10,000 plus people waiting in the under 21 category when and I don't know yet why they're not served under the family of one under the Medicaid state plans. So we're looking to pursue more insight into that. But that gives you an idea a little more. Anybody else had any more comments on that presentation they want to share before we move forward?
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I was wanting to kind of add in that from the family point of view, I know, as he was saying, in Pinellas County, I know of a lot of those programs. So I was aware of that. And I actually, it's just been in the last year. And I thought, what a great program it is. Because I know when I talked to APD about, that's always worried me about the transitional period. It's kind of like families. The school takes care of them, and then they just drop off, and they don't seem to know what the next step is. And so I know we've been working on that, connecting the dots in the Suncoast, trying to get families informed about, because they don't know. And I even think in the IEPs, they go in and the school's kind of going like, okay, what do you want? And they don't know what the option is. And talking to families, they're going to college. They can't do that. And I'm going, like right now, there are some great programs coming down on construction workers. Can you imagine? I'm just like, this is wonderful, to get them into the construction field. And, I can think of all kinds of jobs that a lot of them could handle and would be really, really great at. And so getting that word out and getting families to, they're going to have to seek that information, to know what the possibilities are. And that's where
one of my favorite phrases is you're either going to drive the bus or get run over by it.
Right,
and it's really up to you what you're going to do. And my feeling is informed families can make better decisions, that informed families can be more aligned with what their family needs, and that informed families have the greatest freedom of speech of any people within the whole system. And so our goal here is to continue to raise the expectations, inform our legislators, ask for constituent services. We still plan on having 500 visits this year before the session with people handing out their flyers, teaching them about these different programs, asking for their help to make government work as it was intended. And that voice, as we continue to build momentum and not just focus only on APD, because that gives everybody else an off the hook.
Yeah.
The goal is instead to go the other way and say, why don't we look at this as a community commitment, that we're in it together and we work at building community initiatives, because small rural counties have different options than large counties. We've got wealthy communities that are still resource deserts. On this call, many people, and particularly Alan and others, have been talking about capacity. It breaks my heart to talk about one of the families I know that they have the funding, they got the crises, they got the approval. There's just nobody to deliver the services. And so now they are looking at residential program, not because that's what they want, but because they can't go on doing it all. So the issues around provider capacity, we'd like to have some focused presentation, Alan, and have you take a lead on that coming up and kind of helping look at what are some of those capacity building initiatives that need to be undertaken, so that again, look at the date. We're in the middle of April. We didn't even start talking to each other last year until June.
August.
You know,
August.
August. So we're going to get ahead of this thing. We are not going to let the compassionate conservatives go to sleep. We're going to remind them of the morals and ethics behind serving people, and that we can inspire, enlighten, and engage without having to be mean. We can
And so
do it.
Tom,
Go ahead.
So Tom, what was his email address? I didn't catch it.
Is it in the chat?
Drew's? No, I didn't see it.
I didn't do that. I can figure that out.
Can you copy and paste that for me? I'm technology inept.
Okay.
So
I got Drew Andrews.
I hope you found that to be what we intended it to be, was a bit of an exciting new partner maybe that we didn't know that was out there that can really work together with us, that has money and systems behind it. So one of the spinoffs, and then I'll stop talking, is we're going to be focusing on individual counties, working with the ESE departments. We're going to pilot this in Collier, of really looking at, well, what is the number of students in the next 12 months that would fall in that category 5? And let's then, as a hyper focus, let's create that group as a focus of, then let's build some of that community collaboration that the IEP was intended to do, and saying, well, how do we improve the outcome for that student? What are we going to do so that we're sure they appear on the list that they need to be, that we're sure that there's a purposeful outcome? So if VR is supposed to be part of it, APD, ACA, Medicaid, those types of programs, that they're engaged. So I'm excited, as you can tell, but this is how we can continue forward in really being able to make sure that government is for the people.
And so as a reminder, we're going to meet again on May 3rd, same time, 3 o'clock, same link. I think we got a beat on this, so we could send a notice out a week early and give everybody a heads up. We'd love for you to share with your community. Another thing that I'm going to beat a dead horse until it works, our family care councils. We have 15 around the state, and we had our last meeting last week in our local area, and it was fabulous. There's brand new parents that kids just got a diagnosis and they needed that wraparound family support, and we're able to connect one of the families. Our liaison in our area is also our supervisor for crisis applications. And the very next day, that family, who doesn't know anything, got approved through the crisis and was already connected with the supervisor. And it just furthers the message that together we can truly collaborate. And that's the purpose of the family care councils. And if we could all just show up to our local councils to show that there is interest, then we can build it. And if people want, we desperately need council members to apply. We won't be able to get those applications appointed until we establish a real interest. And the best, easiest way you can do is just show up to the meetings. They're once a month in most places. But if you go to, it's fcc.org, right, Paula?
Mm-hmm.
fcc.org. There's a giant map of Florida. Click on where you live, and it'll take you fccflorida.org. Please, this is the way to build out the families easiest, because that's already established. And then that's one more time, fccflorida.org. Please check us out.
Go ahead and put that in the chat if you would.
They're going to be at Family Cafe as well, so you can get to know your chairs in the area. There's so many things that are going to happen for Family Cafe. I think it's going to help us find the other groups, work together in collaboration. Nicole Gardner, she's one of our members, and she's a recent partners graduate, and part of her final project is to do a legislative initiative within Brevard County. And they had their first meeting on things that they want to work on based on things they're observing. That's incredible. And so if we can just all talk with whatever groups we're connected with about the messages, our stories, I think we're going to do this thing.
And we are also, for an example, now we're providing technical assistance. We're providing information on different types of programs and supports. And she's working on building that community collaborative table, come to the table, sit back down. And Fino, I see you there. And one of the things that I'd like you to do in a future presentation is kind of bring a provider perspective on the processes that you experience, some of the challenges that you may confront, because again, one of our big concern is, and you're welcome to identify somebody else you may want to do it together with, is provider capacity. We've had a long time of deny, delay, and discourage, and if we start to be actually getting people approved and funded, but there's nothing there to serve them, that's tough.
You know what, Tom? Yes, when this first started, when the managed care groups came in, yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but I could honestly say they are getting better. They're updating their systems. The process is being a little bit more streamlined. So I cannot say that they're not trying, to improve getting the equipment out there and getting providers approved, and not just approved, but also claims being paid. I can honestly say, ever since we started putting massive pressure on them, they realized that they had an issue. And I think they did listen. And it's never perfect. We know that. And I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. And there's nothing perfect in this world. But it is getting better. I'm going to say it is getting better. They are working with us. They are paying attention to us, and they're seeing that the mistakes the mistakes are mostly on their end, for claims being denied for reasons that they can't even explain. And they just go ahead and pull the claim out, process it manually, whatever they do. So I can't say that it's not getting better. In my experience.
My experience has been, particularly on the managed care waiver, is that the authorized amount of services is not necessarily reflected in the actual delivery, and that you may be authorized, for instance, for 80 hours of nursing, and you're lucky if you get a consistent 40.
That I can't say anything about, because that's not my line of business. When it comes to what I do in continence, it's a straightforward shot. It's simple. Out of all the services that are out there, every support coordinator does say to me, you got the easiest one. You would get the authorization. It's X amount of whatever for the whole year. We send out X amount per month. By the end of the year, we start fresh. So for me, when it comes to incontinent, it's pretty a straightforward shot. It's pretty simple. When it comes to the nursing and all of that I don't have no experience in, so I can't say anything about. But for me, it's been a pretty simple way of doing things when it comes to the waiver, and even managed care for that matter. It's been a pretty straightforward, simple, no issues when it comes to what I do, when it comes to my services, put it that way.
Alan, I saw you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to say something that I'm starting to observe in the discussions with the pilot managed care company. What I think is going to happen, I think when they mix the money on Medicaid, long-term care in the 4E waiver, I think what we all know is going to happen, that it is less expensive to keep people in the community than to put them in a nursing home or whatever. And I think if they do it right, this could be a huge benefit, because, in my experience, when I was state director of DCF, APD and DCF used to fight for the 18-year-old kids with disabilities on who paid for them. They didn't care for the fact that if the child went to APD, 50% of the money was paid by the feds. If it was DCF that was paying, it was 100% general revenue. And they just fought because it was their territory. So I'm hoping that this idea that the money's mixed, one, we get in the estimating conference, because once it's mixed, Medicaid still has to have an estimating conference. And so I think there's going to be some unintended consequences. And all we need is a managed care company that has a big heart and is actually there for the right thing. That's kind of like, but I'm an optimist.
And we love you for that. And you're an optimist that likes to hold people's feet to the fire too, and we like that too. So as we keep going, we're getting close to the end of our day. It was the kind of thing we hope to do more of this year is to kind of hatch some new ideas, get some folks inspired, keep going on what we've been working on, add a few new things, and our next call is in 2 weeks. And Stephanie, you got any closing remarks?
Just 1 second, Tom. I just have a quick question for you and Stephanie and probably Amanda. I started reaching out to a lot of my suppliers, manufacturers, and they are definitely willing to step up to the plate. I just got to figure out, we got to get into some kind of conversation of how it needs to be handled.
I'll follow up with you on a side with that. We've got a fiscal agent through Autism Collier. We can do dedicated and directed funds, so it's specifically to this project. We'll discuss the specifics, yes. But thank you.
Because I already put a bug in everybody's ear, and they're definitely willing to step up. And I just don't know what the process is, so we need to figure that out.
I'll have it chatted up.
Okay, perfect.
Stephanie, last call.
Thank you all for being here. All the way back to April. I'd love to have the families provide whoever's here for our people, topics you would like to see covered, and that way we can work that into our legislative platform, because this transition piece is part of my story right now, and that's having these education moments will help us figure out how to supplement, change, or amend things that are already in statute. So if you all have areas that you may want more information on that's related to your story, please reach out to us. We are, trying to bring the broad spectrum of things that most families will relate to when we're talking about conversations to have with our legislators. And on that note, I am meeting with my local House representative this next week. And she came to me and said, all right, it's been a year and we're going to probably talk all summer, because I would guess you guys have a lot of things that are going on. So come to me, let's spend an afternoon and see what we can build upon from last year. And those are conversations of data. I mean, what a dream. But if you're at the people you spoke with last year aren't doing that with you, reach out to them. Hey, when can we get together and talk about some things going on in my life and my family's world, to see how we can build on reinvigorating your why. Because
to add to that, the Fox 13 expose is an excellent thing to share with those that serve this year. We got 38 out of 38 senators that all supported that. We can send them that, thank them for their support, tell them we're coming back for the rest of it. And that is it's a very, very good report. So we'll post that again back so people have that. But I've just been taking and sharing that out. I've probably sent it to 100 different people so far. I'm actually forwarding the thank you from the reporter to me and just saying, proud of the work we've done, thought this might be of interest. And I have had tremendous involvement and engagement, and it has so highlighted the importance of family and involvement and family voices. And with that,
Oh, wait, one more thing. Wait, hang on, and then
Well,
we'll go. Alan sent me, and I'll put it in our Facebook group. Amanda, will you put the link to the Facebook group? He sent me an article just recently from Orlando Sentinel, and that, those conversations will keep going up. And then another thing on Monday, the 22nd, I think that's Monday, American Potential Podcast. Amanda, American Potential Podcast is a lobbyist group that covers grassroots family efforts, our community efforts to raise awareness to issues. And they did a recording with me, and that'll be available. I mean, and the idea is just to spread our message far and wide. And if there's anyone covering issues in your community, please share that information on our those are conversation points that we can say, hey, check out this mom in Putnam that just opened this nonprofit to further the message, or whatever everyone's doing. And then we'll meet back here on May 3rd and talk about how we can build upon our marketing piece, if you will, getting those stories into 1-minute clip videos, I think will be incredibly powerful. So,
and Amanda, don't you have a little announcement about what happened this week?
Autism Putnam is officially a go. So I got the paperwork back from the state and all of the numbers that I needed to go open the bank account and make it officially official. So
congratulations.
Thank
you.
you.
Also, you're an aide now. You've got a .gov email address, I think.
Monday. I
do. So amanda.hayes@myfloridahouse.gov. And this coming Monday will mark 2 weeks since Jada moved into the group home, and I get nightly updates. For those of you who are friends of mine on Facebook, you get to see Jaden's smiling face, which has carried me through the past 2 weeks. So,
Amanda, if you ever decide to run, you have my vote.
Oh, thanks, Pino.
Oh, she's running.
She's gonna run.
Oh, this is happening.
Well, if I want everybody across the state to vote for me, I guess I have to run for governor, huh?
Eventually, yeah.
One step at a time there, Representative Hayes. One step
for
at
it,
a time.
Hayes. Go.
This is the kind of thing that it causes, it inspires people. So I hope on that positive note, we see his smiling face and yours, and you get a little bit of sleep, and you can heal and continue on with that. We give you all love and peace and hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. We'll see you